In this video, I'm going to talk about how to scale your company by scaling through hiring. All right. So if you guys don't know how to do these two things that I'm going to be walking through, I will show you how to scale in the realest way. All right. Like this is from the trenches. So if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Alex Ramosio and acquisition.com. We do about $85 million a year in revenue. So first time I heard this term was from a guy named Alex Charfen, and this is his external framework. And I want to show you my internal framework for scaling the company on the inside. All right. And so he talks about how there's five, he calls them core functions of the business, right? So you've got lead generation, you've got lead nurture, which is working the leads to get them to show. You've got sales, you've got fulfillment, and then you've got retention and ascension, right? So retention, getting people to buy more times, ascension, getting them to buy more expensive stuff, right? So he calls these the five core functions, right, of any business, etc. I remember looking at this and being like, oh, this is so cool. And these are the things that you should really never outsource in your business. It's my opinion, right? You should know how to generate leads. You should know how to work the leads. You know how to sell. You should know how to fulfill, and you should know how to retain and ascend your customers, right? If you don't know how to do these things and you haven't divided up your the activities of the business into this thing, it's a very useful framework that you can use for yourself, all right? And think about this as a pipeline, right? That's everything here is done in sequence. But here's the cool thing. There is a parallel internal five core functions of a business that you can use and that you should use. And when I realized this is what allowed us to scale our business, because we actually were able to use the same methodology, the same thinking process of how we scaled our acquisition of getting more customers and continuing to grow that side, to how we scale our employees and how we get them. All right, so follow along. So what normally externally we're doing is lead generation, here we're doing is application generation. So this is how we're getting, and the ads that we're running, where we're running them. And just like you can run an ad to get a prospect, you can run an ad to get an employee. Just like you can do cold outbound to get a client, you can use cold outbound to recruit from other companies. You can use cold outbound to attract talent. All right. So the same 6 ways of getting customers also works when you're actually getting employees. All right, so think about this. So hopefully this is a good mindset shift for you. So there's 6 ways of getting customers. I'll say them real quick. You can do paid ads. You can do earned media. So if you have a following of any kind, you can have your owned media. So people you already have access to on your lists, your CRM, your cell phone, the people who follow you that have given you access to them, right? That you can directly message them without asking their permission. The 4th is through manual outbound. The 5th is through affiliates, and the 6th is through word of mouth. Right? There's the 6 ways you get customers, right? That is, all of these things are traffic for how you generate leads. But you can also use those same 6 for how you generate applications. Pretty cool, right? Because right now, all of us are one amazing hire away from all the growth you could ever want. And I promise you that, and I've lived this firsthand, is that a lot of times you don't need a what, you need a who. Right? You're trying to find and figure out this skill. When someone already has that skill and the experience and has already run an Olympic gold multiple times, you just say, hey, can you just run it over here? Rather than trying to figure it all out on your own. It's much faster and simpler. All right. So just like you have lead generation, you have application generation. What goes next? Application nurture. All right. So there's some really interesting stats along this, but 10 out of 10 employees, high quality prospects, will find a job within 8 days. So if it takes you 6 days to even make your first contact with the leads that you're getting from applications, which honestly happens so common, people work the crap out of their leads, but completely ignore the applications that are coming in for new employees, right? You should have just as structured of a process of how you're nurturing those applications so that they have a high likelihood of scheduling and showing up for, wait for it, instead of sales. Are you still selling? Hell yeah, you're still selling. But we just call it interviewing. Right? And so we're selling them on why they should work for us, right? Rather than someone else. And right now, more than ever before, is a huge war for talent. All right. All the companies that I know of and all the guys who have bigger companies right now are all talking about it, is that the drive to acquire talent is higher now than it ever has been. And it's because of the shift to remote. So now everyone is competing against Netflix, Apple, Google, like all these huge companies are now fishing in all of our ponds because they're employing remotely, right? And so what used to be an advantage if you worked from home or you had an internet business is now just table stakes. Work from home, flexible hours, etc., is now table stakes, right? And so now we have to get more aggressive and more deliberate in how we recruit and hire. And that's the only way that you scale your company. It's the only way. Once you increase this side, you have to increase this side because you have to accommodate the demand that you're meeting. I said there's 5 core functions. These are the external ones. These are the internal. Now, who can guess what number 4 is, right? You have fulfillment for your customers, but now you have training for your employees. You take the person who now says yes, and you make sure that they now go through the process, which as a customer would be fulfilling, but for an employee is fulfilling on the job you just sold them on, right? And so you're actually giving them the skills and how you function and how you do things within your company. What are the communication cadences? Who are they going to report to? What is their job description? What are the KPIs they're going to be measured on? What their compensation structure is, how they can get raises, all that kind of stuff. And so that's the 4th thing that has to be defined within your internal pipeline that are core functions of the business. Now, number 5. Who can guess what this is? Normally you have retention and ascension. Sorry, my camera's just being wacky as hell. I try to keep it fun for you guys, mix it up, try and go in and out of focus. Number 5 is how are you going to retain and ascend your talent? How are you going to retain them? So how are you going to continue to motivate them so that they want to continue to perform? That's the retention aspect. And then how do we select the star players and ascend them to higher levels and put them on a fast track so that they can move up within the company and get more responsibility and make more impact to the bottom line in the business? How can you identify the leaders early on and then put them on a track that allows them to grow, which is one of the biggest things that if you see the biggest companies in the world, it's because they have such amazing talent acquisition systems and retention and ascension systems for identifying talent and allowing them to move up, all right? The reason the biggest companies in the world are the biggest companies in the world is because they employ the smartest people. I mean, think about this. If you find out that somebody worked at Facebook or they worked at Google in any kind of relatively high up capacity, you're going to probably assume that that person's very smart, right? So think about that kind of brand for your own business. How can I make it so that my business becomes a star or a stamp of approval on someone's resume? How can I make it so that my business is like Harvard? Man, and I can tell you, there's definitely aspects of our business. If someone, like the amount of people who try and recruit my sales team is ridiculous, right? But we pay really well, so it's hard. And they also really like it here because we're established business and they have a clear career path that they can make lots of money. But the thing is that if you can create this thing where people aspire to be associated with your brand and your company, then they will retain, you will be able to attract better people, they will want to work for you because they'll know that your training, your fulfillment, right, that you have is so good that it's worth even taking a pay cut to acquire the skills through the business that you have because you're so good at teaching it, right? These skills that make them more valuable. And so I wanted to give you this as 2 parallel frameworks that you can use within your business. One is the external framework of lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, retention, and ascension of how you bring people into your business. And then there's a parallel or a mirror internal core functions of how you generate applications, you nurture those applications so that they schedule and they show up for interviews. You sell them during the interview, so you should have a process, a script, just like you have a sales script. You have a sales script internally, how you can indoctrinate people once they come in to believe what you believe, share the values that you have, and then hopefully, just like in a normal sale, disqualify people that aren't going to be a good fit. And then once they are in, fulfill on the promises that you made to them, increase the value of that person, show them how they can fit and provide value to the company. And then finally, what are the KPIs that we use to manage these people? What are they driving towards? What are they going to get compensated? And then how do we ascend them? What are the titles that they get? And what are the increases in pay that are clear based on milestones when they know they will qualify for that next raise or for that next increase in job, so they can see a clear path of when they're going to work and continue to work for your company? Because if they have no way, they can't see a future for when they're going to work for you, they're a ticking time bomb for when they're going to leave you for someone else. All right. And so talent is the way that you scale the business. And if you don't have a reliable way and you don't know the metrics of your talent acquisition system, well, then is it any wonder why you don't have the talent that you want? So I'll leave you with that in terms of how to scale the business. Like I said, Mosey Nation, there's lots of people who are broke. I don't want you to be one of them. That's why I make these videos. Keep being awesome. I'll see you guys in the next vid. Bye.